what would you consider your favorite sports team, and who's your favorite athlete?
My favorite sports team, and this is from when I was 7 years old, is the New York Yankees.
Okay.
And no one in this area can understand, but my father was a Yankees fan, and even though my grandfather took me to Indians games, my father was a Yankees fan, and there were people playing for the Yankees at that time who weren't paid exorbitant salaries like they are now.
This is very true.
Which is hard for me to swallow, but but that just remained with me. My favorite, I have 3 favorite athletes.
Okay.
Otto Graham is probably the favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Huff, I don't know whether you know who that is.
The Cleveland Browns would like to have Otto Graham back these days.
The Cleveland Browns would like to have me. Or Bernie. Sam Huff, do you know who Sam Huff is?
I do not.
Sam Huff was just an outrageously good linebacker. And Dick Butkus, I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
Those 3 guys.
What's your favorite sports memory? Or maybe you have one of these.
Can I give you more than one?
You can. You can give me as many as you'd like.
In football, it was playing Denison University when they were undefeated. We upset them. And more than the game, the response of Keith Piper. He came across the field, shook my hand, and picked me up and hugged me and said, "Don, this was a great football game, and you guys really did outplay us and outcoach us." That's the way, that's what sports is all about.
You don't see that much anymore.
Tennis, men's tennis, we're playing the University of Akron in the middle 80s.
That's about when I was born.
Okay, shut up. Akron is Division I school and had won 44 matches in a row. We have a pretty good team. The night before the match, our #1 guy cuts his hand.
Oh boy.
Now I still don't know how he cut his hand or why he cut his hand.
You don't want it.
I didn't want it. So, and I didn't find this out till the next morning. He did it after practice. So here we are scrambling around. We're going to play our toughest match of the year. We don't have our #1. So you have to move everybody up in singles according to ability, which you just heard about the other day.
We did hear about that.
And we had to change our doubles teams. So we're playing a team who had won 44 in a row without our best player. We win the match 5-4 because 3 of our guys played out of their minds. I mean, they'd never played this well again. They probably still haven't. 30 years later, they still haven't.
Do they know that if they're out there watching?
Yes, they know that. And they know who they are. And the same thing happened. Dave Bard, who was the coach there, who's now in Florida, came across the court and said, "Coach Hunsinger, this was a great match, and if we were going to lose to somebody, I'm glad it's you and Oberlin College." And the third thing is a women's tennis match. It was my last match. It was at Denison, and we're playing Ohio Wesleyan, and we have the same thing happen. Our #1 can't play.
She didn't cut her hand again, did
No,
she?
no, she didn't cut her hand. And she had just been the player of the year in the conference. I mean, she is really good, and she can't play. And Ohio Wesleyan had beat us when she was playing. We played them a 5-4 match, and the last match ended in a 3-set tiebreaker. And, and at the time I cried, and I'm afraid I'm going to cry again, but after the match I told the women that no coach could ask for anything more than they did that day, even though we lost the match. Their effort was beyond fantastic. One other quick story.
Okay.
We're playing Hiram in football in the early '80s. At Hiram, they go to the playoffs this year. Hiram is really good back then. With 3 seconds left to go in the game, they're up 49-35. The coach calls timeout, and they kick a field goal. Everybody in the place is upset with the guy because, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
He comes out, and he's a good guy. He comes out and he said, "Don," he said, "I know you're probably thinking, why the devil did he didn't say that devil, but I'm going to say that for TV. Why the devil did we do that?" He said, "I'm going to tell you why. This kid's been on the team for 4 years. Every year he's been injured almost and couldn't ever kick. 2 weeks ago, he finally was good enough where he could actually kick the ball, and this was going to be his last chance ever probably to do that. And I knew that you would understand." And I said, "You're absolutely right."
That's neat.
The next year we play them. And
I seek revenge coming here.
And we beat them 6-2. and we give them 2 points at the end of the game. I take a safety because I didn't want to take it. There's game's almost over,
right.
so we could have a free kick and not get it blocked or whatever.
Yep.
He comes over to me. He said, Don, he said, your guys played like they were possessed. He said, what in the world? I said, well, if you go in our locker room, you'll see all kinds of signs about what Hiram did to us. He said, you didn't tell him? I said, yeah, I will after the game. One playing memory. When I was a junior in high school, we had a pretty good football team. We tied Niles, who was undefeated for 3 years. And Tony Mason was the coach, and Tony Mason went on to be a pretty successful college coach. And then the week after that, we lost to a team that we should have never lost to.
Do you want to reveal them?
No. They're close to Boardman, and they were a big rival. They're not where Mancini went to school. They're the other direction. But we had 180 yards of penalties in the game.
Oh my
goodness. Now, it wasn't the officials. I'm not going to say the officials because you look at the film, every penalty they called on us was correct. It was 1 or 2 players on our team that just were out of control that game, and every time we did something, we ended up losing 14-7. And without that 180 yards of penalties, we probably won the game fairly easily. But the next year, we were pretty even. And at that time, there weren't overtimes in football games.
Right.
They scored with 10 seconds left to go. And as a senior, I never played defense. I played it both ways. Sophomore year, junior, I played both ways. But as a senior, coach said I was too valuable.
You need that quarterback.
Yeah, right. Well, I played quarterback the other 2 years, too. All of a sudden, I was valuable. I didn't think I was valuable, but he did. But I said, Coach, I'm going in.
On defense?
On defense, because they were going to run. They called timeout, and they were going, instead of kicking for a tie, they were going to go for a 2-point play.
To win it.
I said, Coach, I'm going in. He said, I said, I'm going in. I went in. And my clearly best friend in the world, Ralph Pitzer, who now lives in Florida, and I stopped the guy on the 1-yard line from scoring, and we still feel good about that to this day because of the year before. Not because of that, but because of the year before. It gave us some vindication.
And that should prove people quarterbacks can play some defense, huh?
Well, I played for 2 years. I started for all of a sudden I was benched because I was...
What are your favorite hobbies outside of work or sports, should I say?
Outside of sports, well, actually it's another sport, playing bridge.
Okay.
I love to play bridge, and I like to build things. Whether it's rooms or garages or houses or...
You're a handy man.
Well, I'm not. I'm just motivated. I'm not very good at what I do, but I like to do it. And I really enjoy doing those things. That's
the key thing, liking what you
do.
All right, so Don, and let's move further back in time than your professional career. What was your first ever job? My first ever job was at Elyria High School, 1964-65. I was assistant football coach, and then the AD said, and this time, this wouldn't happen now, he said, and Don, you're going to be the golf coach. Russ Doan, who's, I think Russ is still alive. I haven't seen him for a few years, but I said, Russ, sir, I've never played golf in my life. And he got out his wallet, and he gave me $200, and he said, go buy yourself a set of golf clubs and learn. And so I did. So that's how you did it. Yeah, that's how I did it. And, I never coached golf again because people saw my swing, and that was the end of that. But that was my first job. It was a great job. And Russ Stone and Bill Barton, who isn't with us any longer, at the end of the season, they called in myself and Bill Murkowski, who was also a first-year coach, and he was from Elyria and had played at Ohio State, and said, you know, you two guys, this is another thing, that this is the kind of people that I was fortunate to be around. They said, you two guys should go back to school, get your master's, you have a future in coaching. And so I did. I went to OU the next year. All right, so anybody that knows you well enough knows that... I know every Dairy Queen in 17 states. Yeah. And there's a new one now. There's a new one now in Mount Vernon that's really pretty good. You love food, and most of all, as you said, you love your ice cream. What's that one ice cream that you have to have? Gifford's black raspberry chocolate chip, but you can only get it in Maine. In Maine. So I wait all year. And then I eat way more than my share. That's what the other months of the year are for, to work it off, though, yes. Right? Although, there's some pretty good ones around here, too. Right down the road, Mentrals isn't bad. Yeah, not too bad. Columbus has Graders. Graders, right. Knowing you and getting to know you a little bit, I'm sure you worked a little bit in high school. What was your best or worst summer jobs growing up? My best summer job was after high school. Oh, okay. Working tennis camps in the summer at Overland.
That was a pretty nice, that was a good summer job. My worst summer job was in Niles, Ohio, at a leather factory.
Oh.
If you've never been to a leather factory,
I have not.
You don't want to go to one.
Don't go.
Because the odor is so bad that you didn't want to eat breakfast before you went to work. It was just absolutely...
Wow.
The work was hard, too, because you had to pull these big hides up out of a vat. It was just absolutely... It was a horrible job.
This was when you were in high school?
It was... Well, actually, I was in college.
College?
Yeah. I was in college when I had that. Summer jobs in high school were pretty much working at a gas station and cutting grass.
Down in Niles?
No, in Boardman.
Oh, in Boardman.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Working in gas stations where the mafia was involved in the back room.
We'll end that story.
Yeah. You don't want to go there.
We do have one last question to get to, but I just wanted to thank you for coming over today. It's been a pleasure getting to know you and having the opportunity for the NCAC fans out there to get to know a little bit about somebody that's been involved with the conference since its inception. And I think it's been a pretty neat experience, and I look forward to maybe having a few other people in your chair throughout the year and getting their views. But before we let you go, I do have one last thing that I do want to ask you. If somebody were to name you the president of the NCAA Division III for one day, that's all you get is one day, what's the first thing that you would do with the division?
There's only one thing I think needs done.
Okay.
Eliminate non-traditional seasons. And the reason I would do that is so that young men and young women could learn to take responsibility for being on a team and organizing things themselves. And I think this is how you develop leadership. And we don't do that now. Everything is coached, and I think we've taken away from the kids by doing that I think we've also taken away from coaches. One of my absolutely greatest experiences was going from football, coaching linebackers, to going to tennis. Those are completely different things. And you work with different kids, and you work with different people, and you meet different coaches. And I think it really helped me to be a more well-rounded, balanced person, not just this gruff, mean linebacker coach.
That does the same thing.
Yeah.
All throughout the
Yeah,
year.
with the same kids all the time. And that's what I would do.
Well, on that note, I think we better go. So,
okay.
Don, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Hopefully we'll be seeing you guys later on in the year as we have more people sit in his seat on video 5 Minute With features.